Good morning, church. It is 2:48 a.m. and I just woke up about 2:23 or so, and I am in pain. What woke me up is I believe it's either the police department or John MacArthur and Gabriel Franklin. The last couple of days I've been dealing with Beaverton Police Department and New York Police Department. Yesterday I dealt with New York, and this morning I am dealing with the pain in my right foot. Somebody came into the apartment and climbed through the window, and after raping and sexually assaulting me in my genital, this is gross, they took a needle and stuck it right here. And it is painful, and the pain is all in this area right here. And so it's like, you rub it and you can feel the pain running through right there, right in this area. It's very painful. Yesterday I had come from work, and when I came back from work, as you can see, this is the top of a pin, a safety pin. Okay, this is the top of a safety pin. You see that? And the bottom part of the safety pin, the long part, the serpent part, where it sticks, has been removed. I believe that either John MacArthur has it or Gabriel Franklin has it. And this morning when I woke up, probably less than half an hour ago, back here, it's like somebody hit me with something, which would cause me a massive headache, which comes down here to my jaw, and is now sort of like causing a toothache. So I have a headache, a toothache, pierced in the right foot, and my genital has been sexually assaulted. So I'm going back to memory lane here. It's like a repeat, right? Repeat, replay, but not repent. Not repent at all. The other day I went out there and I preached on Psalms 93, and Psalms 93 verses 1 through 5 talk about the Lord reigns, and talk about the reigning of the Lord, and also I think I went back to Genesis Genesis 6:5. It was Genesis 6:5. How every intent and the thought of their heart was evil continually, and God basically judged with the world with a flood, right? And then I went into, it looks like they also either punched me in my mouth or they scraped the inside of my mouth. So somebody got really pissed off and decided to come into the apartment to give me some pain in the mouth, pain in the back of my head, pain in my teeth, pain in my genital, and pain in my right foot. So now that means I have to write an incident report, which I haven't done yet. An incident report for Gretchen Kafori Common, the place where I live at. And this is my 14th month living here from last year. And so these people are still coming in here and doing things to me every single day. Every day. It's a nightly thing. I have a vague idea that it's Gabriel Franklin and her son Guy Franklin. It's also John MacArthur. It's MacArthur's daughter Melinda. It's Jonathan Szabo. And it is maybe Sandra Duclairon. There's just, it's sort of like everything that was in New York is now here in Portland. And it's a repeat and a replay of everything. So, I talked about the abomination on, I think it was on the at the beginning of the week. The abomination. As I'm talking to you, my head here is in pain. And so I apologize if you can't really hear me. If there's a slur, I have enemies, new ones. new ones at Labor Ready, and new ones in the so-called church. And every church has become an enemy. They are after me for slavery, subjugation. So the abomination basically has returned and continued. The homosexuality has come back. And now it's the homosexuality with snakes, and the homosexuality with beatings, the homosexuality with cuts and piercing, cutting me here, putting holes in my shirts. It's just a repeat of everything. Nothing's changed at all. The same maltreatment, the same maliciousness that came out of Gabriel, out of John MacArthur. It's the same group of people asking me to subject myself to them as a slave. We're going back to biblical history. We're going back to my own history. We're going back to African American history. Just a repeat of maltreatment and evil and maliciousness and hate, and dealing with the Ku Klux Klan at work, or men who have the Ku Klux Klan spirit. I dealt with that the day before yesterday. And it was done, and it was given to me indirectly. This man had so much hate inside of him. It's like putting a snake in a little, putting a snake in a bottle this size and then releasing it, right? And it's like, wow, I had no idea there was that much energy in such a small bottle of serpents, trying to make light of the whole thing. But there's evil. There's evil in my life. There's maliciousness. There is wickedness, as there was in my country, and there was in New York State and California and Washington State. So it is here in Portland. There's evil. Evil continually following after you. Evil continually wanting to, do you harm and wanting to suppress you, wanting you to exalt them above all else. I don't know where to begin because there's so much information to relate here. I work for Labor Ready, that, and that's a place where these people literally have set me up everywhere I go. I mean, I can go as far back as Sunday because there's something new every day, right? You go to a church on Sunday and the pastor comes out on the stage, right? The pastor comes out on the stage and they set it up in the lobby, and it's like a repeat of Grace Community Church, the same information, and they put people there for you to talk, and they put people there for you to run your mouth. They don't give you any kind of respect. Europeans don't give you any kind of respect. I'm not exactly sure how far back to go, and it's a daily occurrence. Women following me on the train, and literally making it obvious that they're following me because they're wearing Gabriel Franklin's shoes. And in other words, they're wearing orange shoes that automatically puts them on the Gabriel Franklin thing. I think that happened on Monday as I was heading to Labor Ready Beaverton, and when I got off the train, I sensed that someone was following after me, and I turned around and there was this woman, this African woman, wearing, she had afro hair, and she had these orange shoes on, and then I kind of sensed that she was after me. Her face, her spirit basically says, I'm after you. And so I stopped to see if she was going to come toward me or if she was going to go the other way around. And when she saw that I didn't approve that she was coming toward me, when she saw that I didn't approve of her coming toward me, she went around, and then she stopped in this area where she was supposed to cross a bridge and then keep going right into the city of Beaverton, but she stopped right there at the entrance of the bridge. And so I'm sitting there waiting for her to go. They look more like police officers than TriMet bus drivers. So they come out. So these 5 bus drivers come out, big, huge bus drivers. And it's almost like I'm still dealing with John MacArthur and his Bob Jones era, and they want to dump the Bob Jones thing on us Haitians. And they want us to suffer. They want us to, the men, the drivers did not seem like drivers. That's what I'm trying to say. But in the back of my mind, though, I feel like I'm still dealing with John MacArthur and his Bob Jones era, not to get off the subject. because it seems like everything that I'm enduring is because of this European man's issues with this Bob Jones and Herbert Hoover and those people. And so it's like, you're supposed to be the pastor of a church. You're supposed to be the leader of a New Testament congregation. You're supposed to be a radio personnel. And here you are persecuting a former member and a former student whom obviously was never a member or a student to you. But what he was I was supposed to be the hit. I was supposed to take the hit for not my mother, not my father, but for my father, not for my mother, not for my father, but for my mother who resembled Bob Jones. And so all of these years of persecution have basically covered up for the 1974 to, I don't know how many years it was, 7 years, court case. I basically am the cover-up. Right? All of these issues with Melinda and all of these issues with homosexuals, and now black women following me to work, pretending to be Gabriel Franklin because they're wearing the shoes of Gabriel Franklin, dealing with, exchanging words with one of the bus drivers. And I literally had to call this woman out and say, hey, I don't need my dick sucked. Pardon my French. I don't need my dick sucked. And the bus driver jumped in between me and her. And she didn't respond to me, but apparently she had a gun. Okay, so that's what I was told by Melinda. She had a gun, and or a police officer, right? And so she didn't say anything to me. She started smoking a cigarette, a white cigarette. I started going in a different direction, and she faced that direction that I was going in. So I moved away from the bus terminal completely just to look at this woman. The bus driver and I exchanged words, and he was saying that all I am is just a bunch of mouth. I was insulted by that because he wasn't understanding what I was saying. And what I was saying generally is I don't need my dick sucked by a black woman. Please, have your wife suck your dick. And he didn't, he walked away into the main area of the mall. I got onto a train. And as soon as I got on the train, she started coming my way. If she was going in her own direction, she wouldn't have been coming my way. And when I saw her coming toward the train, I got off the train. She stopped and she sat down. And I thought, this is bizarre that this woman would do this. So I got back on the train. When she sat down, I got back on the train and the train headed to Portland. There was a setup on the train. There was a setup on the train of a bunch of young white girls, and the white girls were angry and pissed off. So one of them started hitting me with her backpack. So I hit her back with my backpack. And so she moved, and then another girl jumped in and started in that area, and I put my arms up so that they wouldn't come. So I said, okay. I saw what was going on, and there was a bunch of people there with Gabriel Franklin's face wearing orange. I kind of got off the train, and I was insulted as soon as I got off by the African American community. I gave it back, went home, ate breakfast, and thought, oh my God, I cannot believe this is happening to me. I'm being stalked now by strangers who supposedly is representing this Gabriel Franklin, right? I had a rough Sunday, and I go to congregation in churches, and I sort of feel like there's a switch there. Before I get there, the police department and the gay community brings in a bunch of fake Christians, and the supposedly real committed Christians are being protected, and so they switch. In other words, the group that I'm looking at is the gay Klan, and they're homosexuals and Klansmen from the community or police department who are representing, and then there's a switch of people. So when I walk in, it's all set up. Everybody's, is on their P's and Q's. And I guess they've been doing this to all the local congregations. And then so I'm not, whatever information I disclose, this is not a Christian practice. This is heathenism. This is wickedness. What these men and women are doing, and pretending like I'm some big criminal, going to churches and lying and stealing and doing stuff. And it's like they're purposely doing it, purposely doing it. So I said, okay, well, I can't do anything about that. That was last Sunday. I can't do anything about the people that they put in front of me. They're giving me false names now, false names, false positions. They're lying to me, to my face. They're gay Klansmen. They're homosexuals in the Klan. They're not Christians. And I spoke to the man openly. I didn't give him all my information, but I gave him enough so that he could know who I am. I went and I sat down, and when I sat down on Sunday morning there, they had an African woman who was shorter than I was, black skin, and she didn't look like anything that I would have wanted to touch or go near. But they have it set up so that any contact with African women, they had two African women, one black skin, about the color of this, and you know, and she was hiding behind this tall European woman who looked like she had AIDS. She was extremely thin. She looked like her days were gone. It was over. They gave it to her, you know. And here this girl, this black girl, hiding behind her. This was after I had a conversation with a man. I think his name might have been Daryl or something. I don't know. I don't remember who the guy was. I don't even know who he was. But anyway, I went and I sat down, and there at the corner of my eyes is this black woman, and she wouldn't stop coming out on me in the spirit. And I thought, how annoying. And the pastor up there wouldn't stop bending over. And I thought, and he was wearing the color of my car, the blue car that was, this is the color that they always wear it to indicate destruction. Okay. This is the color of the car right here. You see where my pinky is? Anytime a person wears that color, it means destruction, because look at what happened to the car. So they're going back to Bryn Mawr property, right? You see? This is what they did to the car, and it's not the car, but it's my life. All right. So they went back to that era as a church, and the pastor of that church out in Hillsborough wore that shirt. And I don't believe him to be the pastor of the church. I believe that he was a homosexual, an international homosexual, who projected himself as a pastor, but was working together with the Klan. I don't know who the real pastor is. And I think it was like a Harvest Community Church or something. And you know, he insulted me in his sermon, the last point, and I was summarizing. So they can hear me on the inside. They can hear my voice. They can hear my thoughts. So, you know, going back to Sunday, on Monday, and then Tuesday, I ended up working for this, for Labor Ready, right? I ended up working for Labor Ready, and they sent me to move furniture with 6 other guys. On my way there, I read the scriptures. When we got there, we basically put out the furniture, and the guy that they had an African guy working as under the name of Tim. I don't believe that's Timothy or Tim. I don't believe that was his name. And they gave me a clue that it's either Tim or Tom. So Tom meaning Tom Sullivan from New York Police Department, his family, and of course not Tom Sullivan, but John MacArthur. So it goes back in years. So these people are setting it up in different places with different groups, different peoples to basically, my foot is killing me, church. It's killing me. It is in so much pain this morning. I think she probably stuck the whole thing in my foot. So there's probably bleeding inside of my foot right now, and I can't stop the bleeding. This woman is probably, I don't know who she's representing, the Queen of England, or herself, or the Haitian community, or her own family. I don't know. This is all about the representation, and my right foot is in excruciating pain. For me to go downstairs right now and talk to the person at the desk, if there is somebody at the desk, they basically would have said, well, we can't do nothing about it, call the police, and the police wouldn't come here to take a report. I have no way of proving that somebody came into the apartment and stuck that needle or stuck that pin inside of my foot. These people hate me, and this is the pain that they're giving me. And so they went back to that time of sticking me with a needle again. So, you know, so anyway, on Tuesday, I went back to work, and today's Wednesday. Yesterday was Wednesday. This morning is Thursday, the 12th. So I went back to work on Tuesday, and I don't think they were expecting me to go back to work because I lost a day on Monday. So I'm working with these guys, another African American guy, and these two men in the front seat, one of them was a Gabriel, slash Ivy slash Klansman. And he just was just out. I mean, this guy was out there. Just, the only thing that was missing out of this guy was the hood. That was the only thing that was missing. The outfit, the outside, but his attitude, his spirit, who he was, the I'm gonna fucking kill you nigger mentality. It was there. It was there. No, 100%. Him and the other young guy, they're all calling themselves Brandon. I mean, I don't give a shit who they are, but they're all calling, pardon my French, they're all calling themselves Brandon. So I don't really know who. They're lying. They're using fictitious names, basically, and I think they're swapping names with each other too, so that they can come out and act like a fool or be malicious or vicious. They still have that mentality that we Africans owe them subjugation and submission. So it didn't come out. It came out on the job a couple of times, but it wasn't. It was in your face, like it could be. And I spilled some Gatorade soda when I was, one of the women was coming, and I was scuffling, and the top of the bottle was apparently, I thought it was locked, but I found it to be open, and as I was moving, and the women kept, they came downstairs. I spilled it on the floor. And of course, trying to get out of their way, one of the women represented Gabriel Franklin and another woman represented Marianne. And as I was moving, trying to get out of the way, these women come with this attitude of, we're high society, we come with, we have to set up the house, type of mentality. And of course, they make you feel uncomfortable because you're trying to do a job. And, and I was already dealing with the pressure of dealing with this Tim guy who, in the face looked like a man that lives here, or a black man that lives here. And this black man and I had a confrontation, in the laundry room a while back because of the fact that I spoke to this English woman, harshly or hard. Because she was representing Celine, who is Gabriel Franklin's granddaughter, and she was acting as if she owned me as a slave. And I basically gave the whole information to the management, and I told them what the intention was: slavery. Slavery is at the heart of this entire thing, from beginning to end. Owning Kevin Duclairon is what has caused pretty much all of the ruckus, all of the problems, all of the issues, is claiming me as a slave. John MacArthur's behind it, and so is everybody else that I have known in this American continent. So anyway, I worked and did the spill thing, and I think I even went as far as drinking somebody else's soda because I couldn't figure out where mine was. I don't know if they... Anyway, the point being that later on in the afternoon, the women's response came through the guy that was driving the van. And this guy was just... indirectly, this guy gave it to me. It was almost like... that was the attitude, It's one of those things where he wants to get in your face and just and what was insulting is that he was older, meaner, shorter, and more hateful than I was. But the guy in front of me, we were sitting in the van heading back to the city of Beaverton, and this guy, I asked the guy in front of me, who was playing the role of Gabriel Franklin, his name was Eugene, and you have to read into all of this. It's none of it is direct. It's all indirect, and you've got to read into it. So anyway, I asked him, so where are you from, Eugene? And he mumbled something, and then he stepped up to the driver, and the driver's response was, there was so much anger in him. He stepped up to the driver, and he made mention of where you come from. And so the driver know that it was me that he was representing. And so he asked the driver, where are you going? We just passed the 217 entrance. And the driver was, he took off his glasses and he got pissed off and he said, don't you ever ask me anything, you're a backseat driver and blah, blah, blah. But he just blasted this guy. And the spirit that came out of him was, I hate you. I hate you so much. And don't you ask me about where I'm going. I'm the one that's driving, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. And I couldn't sit in the back and talk to him because I felt like he was directing it toward me. He was talking to the man, the European, but it was directed toward me so much that I had to respond. And I took it back to slave days and them trespassing into slave days and then them trespassing into African continent and wanting to own us, trade us, making trading for us to be their slaves when we were taken into captivity. And so when we got off, when we got back into the office, the one black guy, I think he might have been a Rodriguez representative. The other guy was representing Gabriel Franklin. This Tim fellow was representing the guy that's here in the apartment with this European woman, but the attitude had not changed even through the community. This is like the second or third time he's come out on me through the community. This guy wants to box. He wants to fight. I think the word that's going around is that I raped Tom Sullivan in New York State while he was asleep, and therefore, and Tom Sullivan being John MacArthur. And therefore, the consequence is that I live as a slave in America and I get judged. This happened 25 years ago, or more than 25 years ago now, like 27 years ago. And so everywhere I go and everything I do, that's the consequence. So every single day of my life, I have suffered all of these setups by the gay community and the Klan because, I have to pay for what I've done. I think it's beyond Tom Sullivan. I think it goes back to Bob Jones University and my mother Marianne looking like Bob, and me being brought out of New York, out of Haiti to New York, and MacArthur using this Haitian woman and her son to basically persecute. And her son is the queen and his son, which is the queen being the Queen of England and the son being Charles. And the issue is slavery and punishment because of what Bob did. And so any Bobs in the country or anybody from anybody from the African side that looks like Bob gets either killed or punished. And I'm the son of Bob, since I'm the son of Marianne, and the gay community had something against Marianne, and it was the fact that she looked like the enemy of John MacArthur, and they brought me here to judge me and to punish me, and Gabriel playing the role of the queen. She was a double player, In Haiti, she acted like she was friendly, but under the community here of the gay clan, she betrayed us. She betrayed us, and she betrayed me. She had me call her mother, but the truth of it is she was the enemy. She was the queen enemy whom I did not yield to or submit to as a slave. And so this is where it's at, and this is what she's doing. So anyway, we got back into the office on Tuesday, and this guy, he started coming out again, and I said to him, what? It's like, I don't get this. Are we in a, it's like my father, what I said to him was, my father is dead, and who the hell are you? Because he kept on stepping up, and I'm thinking, dude, this is like a sandbox, and you're throwing sand in my eye. Stop. And I think the words that I used was OSHA, 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 just to remind him that we have laws against what you're doing. So anyway, that was on Tuesday, and I walked away, went to 24 hours, worked out, deposited my check. They did something weird on my Umpqua bank account. It's in the account that I use for ministry. They did something, I don't know what. They're playing with whatever money I put in there. They've got homosexuals working, 12 24/7, 7 days a week against my my banking accounts. I don't know. They're making changes and adding things and taking things and adding money, taking money. So sometimes I come into the account and I forget what the balance is, and I forget what the balance is, and I'm stuck there, trying to figure out what my last balance was and what the transactions were that had taken place. I had ordered Christianity Today 3 months ago. I just got the first copy of it, but they still haven't taken the $19 out, the $19.99 or the $24.99 out of the checking account. So I'm wondering what Christianity Today is doing, and why they're doing it this way. Why is it that they're not removing the money? I know that they're supposed to be a Christian organization, but even Christian organizations can be not just tainted with sin, but Christian organizations could also turn. You know what I mean? When you're dealing with gay Klansmen and gay Klanswomen, people that practice homosexuality as a lifestyle, and then judges others under the order of the Ku Klux Klan or under the order of white supremacy. You have to remember that America is under Spain, is under France, and under England. Native American Indians have lost our country many years ago. And it is by the brutality and the power of slavery that and evil that these people have gained Canada, the United States, Mexico, and South America. And so that spirit of brutality and war and hatred is still there against non-Spanish, non-French, and non-Englishmen. Those of us that are from the African race or mixed side of the African race are still getting brutalized. And internationals who come from different parts of the world who come here and they see that, they use that as an advantage to continue the maltreatment against African men or mixed African men. That disrespect is still there against us to our face. That we hate you, as if we did anything to them. If they hated us, they shouldn't have come to Africa to pick us up. If they despised us, then what are they doing? Why are they still in association with us? Why don't we have a portion of the land where we can raise our own government and establish our own authority, and lead our people in their own way without the influence of a bunch of hateful masters and hateful pastors and a bunch of hateful men who, no matter what you do, they're never satisfied with your work. They're never satisfied with who you are, because they're looking at Africa, the continent that's bigger than their island, and that is always going to be a problem for them. There'll always be hate there. The Spain is always going to hate Africa because, back over there on that side, on the east side, they have a bigger continent. The Europeans are going to have a problem with it. Even the Russian, it's like you're the center of a huge conspiracy, and those African people are always going to suffer, no matter what. And those of us that are on the outskirts of Africa are going to get the same hatred and the same resentment and the same, maltreatment, I guess. The misery of being born African in the 21st century has caught up to me. In any case, I have to shorten the story here. Yesterday, I go to work on Wednesday, and of course, I didn't get away with going to sleep and not waking up in pain. I woke up at 9:48 p.m. Last night, and I was hit on the right foot, hit on the left hand here. They stuck a needle here, and my right foot was hit. And this is all the doing of the Klan. They set it up. They set it up. It's almost like everybody choose a Negro to give it back to. I think they start this in kindergarten. Choose a Negro. Choose a Negro to persecute. Choose a Negro to take it out on. Whatever your life problem is, choose a Negro. And when you choose the Negro, that's the Negro we all give it to. When God hits us, we hit the Negroes. When God persecutes us, we persecute the Negroes. When God gives it to us, we give it to the Negroes. So the Negroes are the bearer of the misery and the torment of life, right? We're the people whom they trample on and whom they abuse and they beat and they harm. They take the women and our women, and they turn our women into sex offenders and weapons that will kill us. That's why a lot of African young men are not in universities or colleges. African young men are not in universities and colleges, but African young men are either dead or they're in jail. Very seldom will you find them on the battlefield or in some important field where they're earning high income. The few that make it, it's usually because they're representing someone in the European world, or it's because they've been pushed out the door. I don't know. I don't know how they're making it on that side. I'm not sure how they're subjugation, perhaps submission, slavery to a white master. You know, I think those people are still living that way. With Africans are still living that way. They have to claim the white man as king. They have to claim the white man as God. The white man is God. In their eyes, they're like the little gods, and yet the scripture says, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." So then why would Europeans put myself and so many others through this much misery and pain when God says, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me"? And these are people who on Sunday mornings, they're wearing their hair are coiffed and they're wearing their three-piece suit, and you can't tell them nothing. Apparently I was pierced here too, because now the pain is coming back. In any case, on Wednesday I go to work, and I made the mistake of going a little bit further down Canyon Road and went to a gas station to get some coffee. And when I got to the coffee place, this gas station, I should have turned the very first left, but I ended up going under the interstate and into this coffee place. So instead of going to making a left on 114, I made a left. I went into the coffee place, and then when I got there, I met a woman who sold me some coffee, and she was the exact replica, and a lighter version of me, even lighter than I was. She looked more like a Cherise Boyd. She was a lighter complexion of the doctor that I'm seeing at OHSU. She literally could have been his little sister or his twin, because the resemblance was so familiar. And here he was, only a bridge away from where I was working at Labor Ready. So he was like right there. And of course, the man that was behind the counter with her resembled a Haitian. He was a European, but he resembled a Haitian, and I guess I was supposed to know who that Haitian was, but I didn't know who he was. I guess that was supposed to be my brother Eric or somebody else in the family who had the same face as I did, but I don't know who he was. They've been coming out repeatedly, and I guess the representation, if I had read into it, it was supposed to be Gabriel Franklin and myself working at a gas station. The gas meaning farting, not gasoline. And Gabriel is known for that. So anyway, I was given a ticket by the worker, I think to Leah or whatever, something like that. Anyway, she gave me a work ticket. She's a Gabriel Franklin rep. She has that Gabriel face. She gave me a ticket to go 5 minutes away to do a job. And of course I turned it into a 15-minute thing. So I go up I find the address, and I go standing there, and the man told me, and this is in Beaverton, and the man told me, all you got to do is stand outside, and he told me, well, they should be coming soon. I was supposed to meet with a man named Dewey. There was no Dewey. Dewey never showed up. Another man showed up. His name was Jonathan, and I didn't recognize him right away. I didn't know who he was, and so I didn't take offense at the man. I thought that was really, it was really interesting that he came and the truck was already set there, and he basically told me we were going to go to what we were going to do for the day. And as I started talking to him, and and here's the weird thing too. When he stepped up, it was about 7:30. I had been there by 6:55 a.m. The ticket had said 7:15, and when he came, when he came to the truck, he started speaking Spanish to this guy, broken Spanish, but he was talking Spanish to this guy, and they started talking to each other like Christians, and and very religious, and I thought, oh, okay, well, I'm dealing with a Christian brother. But something in the back of my mind told me, you better be careful, because a lot of these so-called Christian brothers are becoming are gay Klansmen or men coming from the police department, falsifying to get information from me on behalf of MacArthur, for a later use or for later judgment or for later, sort of like the guy down in Tigard who was acting like he was Pastor so-and-so, but, he was the guy who was eating seaweed and farting up a storm. And he was sort of like a slash Guy Franklin with, I don't know. Anyway, they're coming out of the woodworks, these gay Klansmen, and I don't understand any of it. But in any case, I got into the truck with this man, and I spoke to him as if he was a Christian, and we started sharing about just Christianity and things, and chatting. And I thought the man was a genuine Christian man who went to Solid Rock Church in Tigard. That's what he said. And it kind of, later on, it kind of floored me. We went to this place to do a job, and he lost it. Literally lost it. I'm not exactly sure. We're supposed to take a 10-minute break every 2 hours, but we had 2 containers to empty out. And the container was, it was full of stuff. He was supposed to have a third person with him. The guy didn't show up. And so it turned out to be just myself and him. The more I looked at his face, the more I saw Tom Sullivan. Tom Sullivan was the man who, I guess they arranged it with himself, the group home, John MacArthur, the police department. It was a conspiracy that I didn't know was in existence against my family and against me. This was before I knew about the voices of Gabriel Franklin in my head, controlling my mind on the inside. This was before I knew about what they had the capability of doing on the inside. I was young. It was my first time being away from Haitian, the Haitian family that had brought me here. They didn't tell me about the MacArthurs. They didn't tell me about Bob Jones. They didn't tell me the resentment that they had for my mother and father. They didn't tell me why they had removed me out of Haiti. They didn't tell me a lot of information. And so I got myself into a situation where they directed me here to the West Coast just so that they could continue to sexually assault me and judge me. And Sullivan was the boy that they used to basically entice me, but it was the women who were enticed. And what I was told to do was basically what occurred. Okay, I left under the threat of going to be shot and killed, and he was going to shoot me and kill me, and so I left. I left New York. They arranged it that way for me to leave the East Coast. They took it out of the East Coast and brought it over to the West Coast, the whole situation. They brought it over to the West Coast, and they used it. They used everything that had happened. What I think they were hiding is what was happening at the group home with what I did. In other words, there are two things. The thing that happened with Tom Sullivan and the thing that was happening at the group home for years. All the time that I was a minor, I was being molested. And the thing with the Sullivan was for me to leave. Anyway, the thing with the Sullivan was a similar incident, but it was a similar incident, but it was supposed to cover up what was being done to me at the group home by putting the blame on me for what I did to Sullivan, which would be used later on in the court of law to accuse me of sexual assault and to accuse me of to put me in a position where I would be become a slave, right? In other words, the Constitution says that if you offend someone, then you become the slave of that person. I think that's what it says in the 13th Amendment. I'm not exactly sure here if that's I'm not sure if that's the right wording, but something to that effect. If you offend somebody, you go to jail, or no, you become the slave of that person, or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but in any case, this man that I was working with, was a duplicate of Sullivan. Here it is. It says, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States. So these people has basically been punishing me for crime. And the crime that they're accusing me of is raping Sullivan. What is not part of the accusation of the crime is that of the women, Melinda and Gabriel, who was in my mind controlling me when I was, they've been doing it for years. The whole Cherise thing was it started with before Cherise. It's almost like I don't know how far back it goes, because I mean, it's almost like I had somebody in my head telling me what to do, to touch Cherise, or to write a letter to Kevin Pfeiffer, telling him you love him and you want to have his baby. That's a girl's mindset. That's not a boy's mindset. Taking quarters or money out of going to this man's house, taking money. I mean, it's almost like going to Safeway and steal food. I mean, it's almost like, going to Taboo and have sex with the man. So from the very beginning, I was being misled with the voices of these women and Gabriel, and I'm sure that there were others. Misled. And I couldn't figure out how I was doing these things and why I was doing these things. And so when they made me aware of it, when they made me aware of it in Seattle, Washington, that this is what was going on, it was already too late. It was already too late. I had already grown up with their mindset. All they had to do was thinking. And I would assume that it was my own thought. And I didn't know that I was dealing with MacArthur and his clan and his gay community. I didn't know I was dealing with the Bob Jones thing. I mean, when you're not aware of your surroundings and what people are capable of doing, you get caught off guard and you get hit. So in any case, yesterday I went to the job, and I knew right then and there something wasn't right with this guy that I was working with. I was supposed to work with a man named Dewey, and they changed it to a man named Jonathan, or John. And his face looked familiar, but I didn't catch on until later on that he was Tom Sullivan, the guy that literally accuses me to my face and behind my back and threatens to kill me. And this is the guy that had me fleeing to another state because of the accusation of rape. And this is the guy that went to Grace Community Church and basically, as a result of it, ruined my entire life, right? Ruined my entire life. Was I repeatedly raping him every night? No, it wasn't like that at all. It wasn't even a rape. There was no penetration. There was no, I won't get into the details because I don't know who he is today, and I don't want to bring up old sores. I don't know who's doing this, okay? And I don't know who's behind it. I don't know if it's MacArthur using this boy or using this man, or if it's the police department from New York State, or if it's the Klan. I don't know who's behind this. But in any way, we went to this one place, I guess out in Beaverton, to remove stuff. And at first I didn't recognize it, who the people were, but later on it's like I'm thinking, that was probably the case manager from OHSU, Guy Franklin. So she was probably Gabriel Franklin / OHSU case manager. And the height, the build, the whole thing, you can literally almost see. And of course the guy that I was working with was a Tom Sullivan / John MacArthur. So Sullivan is a younger version of MacArthur. And so on Wednesday, I go in to work with this guy, and the name is changed, right? The people are changed. The person that was on the paperwork was not there, so they changed from one person to another. This guy, I mean, it's like between the two of us, 5 minutes into it, I was already run down because we're going 3-story. We're coming from the garage to the first floor to the second floor. And it's just him and myself. You know, after about 5 minutes, I was already run down because we're running up and down the stairs, you know. We did the first crate, and we should have taken a water break. There was tension between himself and the people that we were working for. I mean, I could feel it, you know. He went off the deep end, and so I kept my mouth shut and stayed out of it and tried to be a good worker. But then there came a point where, you know, he was passing gas. You know, that was really, it's just like, oh man, this guy was not a very good employer. You know what I mean? It's like passing gas and cursing, and then he just loses it on me. You know, this is after I'm carrying all this stuff. My arms are like noodles because they hurt so much, and I almost like had no strength. But the work could have been done, I think, if his attitude was a little bit different. And I think he did it on purpose. He came out. And when he came out, the people heard it, they saw it, it was evident. I mean, he did it repeatedly. It was so obvious. It's almost like he deliberately put that there as an employer, so that there would be, and he gave me a warning too. And the warning that he gave me is like, nobody likes me and nobody comes back and work for me. And I knew right then and there, this man was going to come out. And later on, he told me, well, you didn't give me the whole story. And so, you know, the Klan in him was coming out. And of course, he told me about his own testimony being sexually immoral. But I sort of felt like he was talking about me and Gabriel and my mother, Marianne or Sandra, rather than his own testimony. I don't feel that he told me the truth. I felt that he lied and he used my own testimony to betray me. But this man was claiming to be a Christian out of a local congregation in Tigard, and I felt about this small at the end of the day, you know. And I'm thinking, this is ridiculous that this is how I'm being dealt with by these people who call themselves the church. You know, they're coming in and they're acting all Christian-y, and then once, you know, their real spirit comes out, there goes the Christianity out the back door, you know. And this guy's attitude was just so, it was so evident, you know. And you know, that was the other thing that I picked up on. Both he and the man that we were both working for was doing one of these ordeals. It was sort of like warning me, like they wanted to hit me or something. And I thought, okay, this isn't good. You know, I'm not exactly sure what this is about, but this isn't good. I mean, it happened. We moved two people. The first people that we moved from the crate to upstairs was in Beaverton, and another one we went over to Vancouver, Washington to do it. When we went to the Vancouver the second time, it was the same. It was a duplicate. It was the same man twice. It's almost like twins. I felt like I was dealing with twins with this guy. Dewey and Jonathan are probably twins. When I first met, the first guy that I met was taller than I was. And the second guy, apparently, I dealt with both of them and didn't know that I had dealt with both of them. When he came up, he was taller than I was. And then later on during the day, when I looked, we were the same height. I'm thinking, this is weird. I mean, the man that shook my hand was bigger, but then they switched it to a guy that was my same face, same spirit, same voice, same everything, except for it's a different height. So they're switching twins. They're using twins to switch on me. This is what MacArthur did when I was on Grace Community Church property. Like I said, you know, in the background, we're still dealing with Bob Jones. We're still dealing with judging Jones for what he did. And this is how he's choosing to do it. So instead of playing the role of pastor teacher on Grace Community Church property, he's now hiding in the background of Gretchen Kafuri Commons, right? Hissing, sticking needles under my feet, persecuting me, sexually assaulting me. You know, he now has jurisdiction to sexually assault me because I supposedly sexually assaulted him by assaulting Tom Sullivan. And of course, that was the whole. It was the whole setup. I was supposed to insult the man so that they could claim me, you know, to be an offender, and so they can claim me as a slave, right? We went out to lunch, and of course, more information, you know, and you know, he dropped me he dropped me this sort of like a hint that I didn't give him all of my information, you know, and I felt about this big. I'm like, this guy is just, and then he lied about his age and told me that he was 30. I don't believe him to be 30. I think he was much older than that. You know, I was insulted by the man from beginning to end, you know, and I was just like, God, you know, why do these people go through all of this? All of it is to diminish us. All of it is to cut us down. All of it is to exalt the devil. All of it is to exalt Satan and what basically the Lord has put in him, which is the deceitfulness of sin and the wickedness of evil. So anyway, long story short, we go to Washington, Vancouver, and as I was putting stuff away in the truck, I noticed that there was blood. He had a cut right here. He had a huge cut right here. And so apparently something happened between himself and the new couple who was representing the first couple. The first couple supposedly was husband and wife, but this time it was father and son, father and mother. And they were going to either North Carolina or South Carolina, and they needed stuff removed out of their truck. They needed their stuff removed out of their one-bedroom apartment, and to put it into this U-Haul, and then we would take it to this crate, and then they would ship it to wherever I guess the man is going. So I'm not exactly sure what happened, but he got cut and blood was shed, and I guess he was picking up something and it cut his arm, or I don't know. But in any case, out of nowhere came blood. You know, and I thought, man, what is going on here? You know, it kind of concerned me, you know, that that happened. But in any case, I'm forgetting some of the details here. We went to the place, and of course they came out again. He didn't like the fact that I was arranging everything straight, or something to that effect. He went and got 2 crates instead of 1 crate, and he was trying to reduce everything into the 1 crate. And I wasn't sure what my employer was indicating. It didn't feel right. Right? It didn't feel right what he was saying. I sort of felt like there was anger there between himself and the man, and I'm not exactly sure what was transpiring, but there was some sort of either dishonesty or hate or hit. You know, I don't know. Whatever it was, and then of course they brought out a dime, and they put the dime and the penny on top of in the back of the truck, the small truck. And when they did put the dime, and the dime basically was representing the fact that I had to pick up my check at Labor Ready and take it to the UPS store, and at the UPS store I would make a copy for 10 cents, and that would be it. And I would put it in my record book. That's basically all I did, was to keep a record of where I worked and how many hours I worked and who I worked for, and if there was a crime committed, laws broken, or whatever, you know, in case there was, you know, there's an emergency or something, because there's something always happening against Labor Ready workers. You know, to these people, we're garbage. You know, we're not even humans. We're like trash that you throw out yesterday, you know, when a person has to reduce himself to that of a laborer. We're not even considered real workers. In any case, when I saw the dime, I knew right then and there I was being hit directly by the gay clan. This guy would not stop passing gas. I was disgusted by the whole thing. You know, I was humiliated, and he basically continued what Tiger had done. It's like he wanted me to confess my whole life to him. You know, the whole homosexuality, I didn't confess any of that. I told him what happened, what was happening with Gabriel. He didn't tell me the truth about who he was. I felt like he lied to me to my face. You know, I felt like I was dealing with the devil and the devil, you know, and both here in Oregon and also in Washington. In any case, the first place, the first place where we went when we had to empty out the 2 crates, the man gave me, he gave me a tip. And I completely forgotten about labor ready laws in regards to tips. I don't think we're allowed to receive tips, but now that I think about it. But at the time, and the thing with the hours of labor ready is that we're supposed, we work for 4 hours, right? The first 4 hours, I think it's if you work for an hour or 2 hours, they still have to pay us for 4. And then after that, it's whatever hours we put in. I was there by 6:55. He didn't show up until 7:30. And so from 7:30 to 4:15, I worked. I don't know, 7:30, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's about 9 hours. He had treated me to lunch, supposedly. But then later on, I wasn't paid for the traveling time. And so, the tip that the guy had given to me and the fact that he treated me to lunch, basically says that, I guess he took a couple hours off. I don't know. I wasn't paid for a full 8 hours. And with the lunch break and thing, I was not, I felt there was tension there. When the guy had handed me the $5 bill, and he caught an attitude. It was more than 5, but he caught an attitude, and I didn't like the way he responded. I thought that was unprofessional. I felt about this big, when I saw his response. He had said to me, "Oh, I'm going to give you some extra cash for all the work, and I'm not going to give you just the $9.25." And I was just like, okay. And then as he was saying that, I sort of felt like there was another spirit there, And when the guy handed me the money, and I took it like anybody would have taken a tip, and I felt like there was something else there with this guy, and I'm going, okay, this guy. It's almost like he was livid. He was pissed at the fact that I was given a tip, and it wasn't all given to him. And then from that, he would have given it to me, right? He would have given me $5 or something, I don't remember. I don't remember what his response was, but it wasn't good. It wasn't a good thing. In any case, he drove right by the apartment complex here, and he did it on purpose. He knew the area where I was going. It was the biggest setup I had ever. I'm like, oh my! It was so obvious. It was so obvious. It was so obvious. It was so to my face. It's almost like the police department was taking me through this entire process. The 1-bedroom, the sprinkler system being turned on when we got there. And we were trying to get up and down the stairs with the sprinkler system and furniture and books, and it's like, holy shit. And of course and here's the killer, is that here I am dealing with a guy that was the exact replica of Tom Sullivan, and then when we went to the second apartment, here he is dealing with the replica of the man whom he just dealt with in Portland. So they gave me a double of Tom, and they gave him the double of this man, except for the woman wasn't the double, it was his mom. And so I'm thinking, what the hell is going on? And then there is blood, and there is, and there's tension, and then there's Mexicans who were in the way when we were trying to move this stuff, and they were trying to clean the apartment next door. So 2 apartments became vacant right then and there. I didn't touch either one because I didn't want to move to Vancouver again. So, I'm thinking, oh my God, what is going on here today? It was just a bad. And of course, in the background is Gabriel and John MacArthur. All right, Gabriel, John MacArthur, and everybody that's with them. So in any case, we get back to the office. We pass here. We drop off some stuff. My muscles started cramping, and we get back into the office, and Melinda told me, don't point out where you live, because he already knew where I live. And of course he accused me indirectly of not trusting him, and the warning that he had given to me that most people don't work for him, and the back of his truck had holes in it, just like it was almost a replay of my own life. There was a hole in the back of his truck, this huge hole, and I was just like, and he had it covered with this big plank of wood. And I'm thinking, what is going on here today? This is not a good thing. When I got on the truck and I actually looked, I could see the ground underneath us, and I thought, this is so unsafe. But yet, the police department made the decision to use that truck. Just like they had sold me a dud trailer with a hole at the bottom, and I didn't know it. So at some point, if that was really the truck, or if that was I think it was more prop than it was his own business. In other words, it was a setup, and that was the prop they chose to use, rather than this was the actual truck for the company. Because the whole thing, from beginning to end, it's almost like it was so obvious that it was a setup, and it was from beginning to end, it was a setup. The whole thing was just, it was just, I don't know how they say it. It's like, people, it's like, God, it's like, John, you and these people are doing too much. What's my message behind all of this? You're doing too much. You Europeans, Americans, you're doing too much to enslave us. You're doing too much to own us, to trip us up, to get us to offend you with our fists, so then you can claim us as your property and your slave. The time is short, right? The time that God has given to us is short. You're spending too much time trying to get us to offend you, so that you can enslave us or call us out as slaves. You're doing too much. And of course, it didn't stop there. He went into the office with me, and they gave him a warning, right? That depending on what he communicated about me to Labor Ready, that he himself would be getting a bad report. And when I saw that, it changed his mood. Now, no employer has ever dropped me off at Labor Ready and come inside and given a report. So he indirectly indicated to the woman that, oh yeah, Kevin is a great worker. And then he, off the cuff, he says it was the first job. In other words, he wasn't pleased at the fact that I couldn't push up the mattress. That wasn't the case. That wasn't the case at all. This guy, he is a trained Klansman. He knew exactly what he was doing. What the fuck is this thing? It's like, oh my God. And then he passed gas on top of that. It's, what the fuck you doing? Push the mattress. And it's like, he lost it. He lost it. Okay. And it showed, and it was obvious, and it was just like, okay. All right. Now, all of that Christianity just went out the door. Right? All that Christianity went out the door. My head is pounding right now. So, Solid Rock, of course, he told me that his relationship with Solid Rock was just... So, I don't think he's from Solid Rock. I think he's a police officer. He's trained, probably out of the Beaverton office. I think a lot of the people at the Beaverton Labor Ready are probably representing officers in the Beaverton Police Department. The police often do this against me because they're the gay clan, and this is what they're doing now. I tell you Christians, both on the African side and you Europeans, if you want to hear it, and when I was supposed to get an hourly rate, right? He gave me $10 an hour. And then to my face, he reminded me I was given a tip, and I wasn't paid for the 8 hours. I was paid for 6.75 hours. So from 7 a.m. from 7:30 when he showed up to the 4:15, and of course he probably took some money off for the lunch. So I was fine. I took the tip and I added it to the 6.75 hours that I worked. He basically paid me according to the job, how many hours I worked. But the traveling, was not included, but it was done in such a bad manner. I mean, you know, it was so obvious. You know, he didn't want the service. He didn't want the whole purpose of him being there. It was not to create fellowship representing the church. It was to create the tension, to put something there in between myself and this solid rock church, to put something in between myself and labor ready. You know, if he could have gotten me fired, I would have been fired right then and there. So that's the second job this week, right? The first one was the moving job with the black guy being represented from here. And then the second one is the Sullivan case coming back again. So it's one of those things where, you know, I mean, there are other things that happened and I said, and but it continued, you know. After I left there, I went back, you know, it continued at the bank, at the Umpqua Bank here in Portland. It continued there with one of the workers, male workers, who wouldn't stop coming out. And I told him, I'm not a gay. Leave me it's like, leave me the fuck alone. I'm not a fag. Would you stop? You know, I was pissed. So it continued with them. It continued on the train. It continued at the PSU. The Hispanic women wouldn't stop coming out. European men wouldn't stop coming out. African Americans wouldn't stop coming out. It continued at McDonald's. They wouldn't allow me, once I had made the payment for the registration of the Gospel of Mark to the Library of Congress. The Library of Congress, you know, I don't know how many works I have sent for it to be registered. I mean, 2014 works, I had sent 4 works. None of them are up. 2015, I think I had sent 2 or 3. None of them are up. Now 2016, I just sent 1. And this is the second one to be registered. So the Library of Congress has people there representing Guy Franklin, John MacArthur, Gabriel, and all of these people. And I guess what I'm saying to you, church, and when I say church, I'm talking church. I'm talking about Bible-believing Christians, Christians that belong to God, not Christians who belong to Europe or Africa, not Christians who belong to Spain or Asia. I'm talking about Christians who belong to the kingdom of God, who loves God, who serves God, and who are not playing on both sides of the fence. I'm not talking to famous Christians. I'm talking about to committed Christians, Christians who understand the position of God and Christ in this generation. And, you know, I went through a whole hour explaining to you, you know, what has happened in the last, you know, since Sunday. And here we are, Thursday morning, 4 a.m. And, you know, if you watch my videos, you're either going to get straight preaching or you're going to get a full explanation of what's going on. And then at the end, you know, we're right back to the abomination. We're right back to the violence and to the sin and to the evil of man. I took all of that time to bring you up to date to my own life so that you understand. And it may not sound, you know, gruesome, but when you're right there and you're feeling the tension between yourself and an employer or a worker, you know, it doesn't feel good. Because nobody goes to work to fight workers, or nobody goes to work to fight employers. And for a man to go through this much, to pull out, you know, to bring something out of the East over to the West Coast, and for it to last 25 years of nothing but persecution. This man literally went over there to bring me over to this side so I could be persecuted. And right now, the West Coast, they're waiting for me to come back, because then the real people out of the East Coast, the East Coast is waiting for me so that they can carry out whatever it is that they said they were going to carry out, which was to kill me, or to, you know, Guy Franklin and his mother are over there, and they're over here now. But I go over there, then I have to deal with the real people face to face. So it's either you deal with them on this side through the gay community, or you deal with them over there face to face. And it's all set up. It's all set up. I mean, this is as far as they go, and probably even beyond, you know, to get slaves. Americans don't live by this book here. Americans don't believe in this Constitution here. European Americans, you might as well just spit on this, right? This is what they use, right? This is what they use right here. This is the lifestyle that they use to bring us down, right? To bring us down. They accuse us, right, of longing for them and desiring them. They accuse us of, I mean, some of the things that you're doing too much. You know, you're doing too much to take control over our lives. You're doing too much to hurt us, to hit us. And if I go to work today and they give me a job, it's already planned. It's already planned out. And it's this, this is my response. And I want him hit. What he did this morning, taking the second part of this thing right here, right? And I had put it in here. They removed it out of here. I had put it in here. They removed it out of here. So this pinhead now, this is what they're using to judge me with, And so we're right back to this, right? We're right back to this. And I guess, and so, European women, and I'm thinking, why so much? Why so much? It's like, why can't we be left alone and to live our lives as free men? What do you get by projecting yourselves? You Spaniards, you French, and you English. What do you get out of projecting yourself on Africans as property and as slaves? We're not your property. We're not your slaves. You butchered and murdered a lot of innocent people. And now here you are on this U.S. continent, and it's like, why are you doing this? Why are you being so malicious? Because you can, right? And I think it's an evil thing that you have done. I think it's an evil thing that you are doing. I think it's absurd, and it's sad to see that this is the real you. It's sad to see that this is the real you. After all these years, there goes you, but for the grace of God, right? That's what Rodriguez used to say. There goes you. And they told me, well, the next time you work, it's going to be Rodriguez. I don't want to work with Rodriguez. I don't have any interest in working with Rodriguez. There are real employers, and then there are homosexuals, who want to play the role of the people that you had issues with in the past. Why can't you just leave some of these things alone and let people be, and let people live their lives? I don't like the idea of Social Security limiting me to a $1,000 a month, and if I go out and work, then the first $85 is okay, but then anything after that I make, they cut the check in half. It's like, well, I'm trying to, if my bills are beyond $1,000, then how am I ever going to earn the money to pay the bill? I'm not going to, if you cut my check in half, it's only going to be $500. And if you cut the check in half, I'm not even going to be able to pay for my rent. So Social Security has some weird, really weird. They've changed their policies, and I've called them, I've tried to email them. I literally will have to go into the office, but then when you do, then they shorten your hours. Once you go into the Social Security office and you bring in the receipt, or you bring in the pay stub, they shorten your hours, right? They shorten your hours with labor ready. Then you only work 2 or 3 days, and then when bills that you have to pay, you can't even pay because you can't go over this certain amount. Right? And that means unless you're getting paid under the table. So I'm not exactly sure, this morning, it's like, how long is this Grace Community Clan going to continue to persecute? How long is this Grace Community Clan going to continue to pursue Bob by pursuing me as if I'm the son of Bob because my mother had that face? And it was years ago, not today. When she was younger, back in the 70s, she might have resembled, but she's gotten old. But they brought us up here just to judge us. This European man can't go to the university and deal with the university. He has to bring Africans from other countries into this country because they can hear our voice, and they've paired us up. And it's almost like Melinda had an issue with me because she can hear me and I can hear her. And MacArthur had an issue with Mary Ann because of the Bob Jones thing. And so they put us together in the house. She had an issue and he had an issue. And and I'm wondering if that's what it was. And she was never my mother. And they put us in the same house together to deal with both of our issues. And then when we were separated, I never saw her again. So, I don't remember the 70s, but here I am 44 years old, and to be 45 at the end of summer, And I'm thinking, I don't understand any of this. This man is supposed to be a pastor of your churches, right? And of course, I'm looking back now at churches and I'm going, this guy was never born again. I mean, if we're still dealing with Bob and we're still dealing with Tom and we're still dealing with Gabriel and her sexual assaults, and, you know, they protected Gabriel. They protected her all the way. I mean, she's still coming into the apartment, right? What is the point of all this? I mean, every day I go to work, and of course, outside of Labor Ready, I don't have a job. I'm a preacher, and there is no church to support, right? There is no church to support. And I'm thinking, aren't we supposed to be the body of Christ, the kingdom of God, the limbs? And this is what's happening. Is a lot of these church congregations, people come in, and they're not really Christians. So for those of you who are believers and who do trust in God, a lot of you are being bitten. I don't need to know what your story is. I know. You're being bitten. You're being hit. You're being harmed. They're climbing through your windows. They're doing some serious shit to you. And they go through all of, you know, evil, the evil empire and the evil of the unbelievers. It's amazing what unbelievers will do to hurt another, to hurt a believer. It's amazing. It's like Cain and Abel. I live in a world of Cains. MacArthur's a Cain, Gabriel's a Cain, all the Labor Ready staff from behind the desk and the Labor Ready men that I work with and the people that Labor Ready send me to. They're all Cains on all three levels. The staff that works behind the counter, the men that I work alongside with, and the work and the employers that I get sent to work for. They're all Cains. They're all heavy-handed, or, you know, they want to hit, they want to fight, and they want to show you how violent they could be, and it's like, holy shit. And of course, you're supposed to be the humble who takes the hit, because if you don't, out the door you go, and you lose your job, right? And from job to job to job to job to job, and then they follow you. They come into your home, right? The employers, they get to come into your home to offend you at home when you're asleep, to have you sexually assaulted and pierced and beaten and cut. Right now my head is pounding, so they hit me with something in the back of my head, right? They hit me right here with something. I don't know what they used, but whatever it was that they used to hit me with, now the hit is back. The back of my head is pounding right here. It hurts like hell, you know. You go to 24 hours and homosexuals are everywhere trying to make that sex connection. And it's not for them. It's so that they can report it back to the community, and the community uses it as a form of judgment. And I'm thinking, oh, you know, look, you understand where I'm coming from, okay? This isn't a sermon. This is more or less an update, you know, of where things are at, you know, at work, at home, in the community, the general community, in the society. That's what I'm saying, community. I'm not making reference to the gay community, but in the society. So you are up to date with what's going on. If it catches up to you in your, wherever you're at, I could be moving into your apartment building. And as soon as you see me, you know what I'm bringing with me. You know who's behind me. If I come to your church, you already know. MacArthur is a snake in the West Coast. He is not a born again. He is not a Christian brother. He will kill you. He will destroy your family. He's a man full of European pride. He's not, you know, he's not filled with the Holy Spirit. He's filled with the Klan. And the Haitian women, same thing. They're a bunch of black devils. You know all their names. I've given them to you in repeated videos. You know, the Klan is out, European Klan is out, and they're not going to change their course. I worked for an employer once, maybe twice, but then after that, that's it. So, you know, I don't know what to tell you. I can't protect you any more than to let you know this is where it's at. So if you're a part of this nonsense that's going on, and MacArthur is using you or is about to use you, I don't know what to tell you. You know, they woke me up this morning at 2:23 in the morning, 2:28 in the morning, so that this video could be produced. You know, not by my own choice, but this is what they're doing. It's 4:12 now. I'm supposed to be up by 4:30 to go to work. So I have no strength and no energy whatsoever, right? I was supposed to upload the videos to Library of Congress today and pay my PGE bill and do some other stuff. But now I'm thinking it's probably best for me to take a day off, and then go back to work tomorrow, so I can catch up on some of these things that I need to get done. And then of course I still got to write an incident report. I got to catch up with some paperwork. All of that I say to you so that, don't be a part of evil. It's a sin. Don't be a part of the evil system. The evil system that's out there that's going to swallow you up and gobble you up. Don't be a part of it. We have a limited amount of time on the earth. Do you understand? If I showed you the obituaries and obituaries and obituaries that I have of your dead fathers and mothers and brothers and sisters and sons and daughters, you would be angry at me because I have kept that many. And we're on a limited amount of time living on a planet that's passing away. Don't waste your time plotting and planning and doing evil against the church or against members of the clergy. If a man tells you that he's been forgiven, he's been forgiven. We all have a past. Who in America doesn't have a past? The European continent, this continent has become a European continent. Before that, it was a Native American continent. There was a past here. It's not pleasant. It's not pleasant to remind the European that he butchered and murdered an entire human race to take over their land. Right? It's not pleasant to remind Africans that they were slaves. Right? It's never pleasant. It is never pleasant to remind someone of their past and to remind someone of the evil of their past. And men who voluntarily say, yeah, I'll do it, are evil and are of evil and are of the devil. When a person goes through that much trouble to get your information, memorize it, and to regurgitate it back to you to your face, they're basically telling you that I'm your enemy. I'm not a friend. I will kill you, or I will hurt you. I will do things against you. For a man to take that much time to memorize, and then of course they're asking you questions, to see whether or not you're going to tell them the truth, right? To see whether or not you're going to regurgitate to them what was given to them as the real information, right? So, you people out there who are not of the church and who knows about these videos, you New York Police Department, I was there for months after that occurred with Sullivan. If you had an issue and Sullivan had filed a claim, right then and there you should have dealt with it. Now here we are 26 years later, and this is what you're doing to me in the West Coast. That's unacceptable as a police department. And it's like how ridiculous that this is what the East Coast, from Bob Jones University and directly to Portland, Oregon, is still doing, right? Doing to me because of John MacArthur. I'm not even involved in this Bob Jones thing, right? But yet it is still 27, 30-something years later, still affecting my life. I can't do nothing on the American continent. I can't get a job. I can't finish school. I can't get married. I can't find a decent home. I'm living in a studio, trying to make it into taking a studio and turning it into a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom. It's like people are coming in and sabotaging, beating me on the back of my head, sticking needles under my feet. I can't sleep at night. I can't being raped and abused by African, Haitian people. Every single night. I didn't do anything to deserve this. I didn't do anything to deserve this, right? Because some wicked old white man got his ass whooped by another wicked old white man, and he can't take it out on his own race, so he takes it out on me and mine. He couldn't fight Bob Jones, so all these years have passed, and now whoever looks like Jones and whoever looks like, because they can hear my voice, now we have to submit to them. Who are they that we should submit to them? I didn't ask to come to America. I didn't ask to come here. I was sent here to deal with an issue, and they didn't give me the information to my face and introduce themselves. It was all indirect. I think that's unfair. That's unfair to me. That's unfair to my family, right? What little now I have no family because there's no father and there's no half brothers and sisters. Now it's all representatives, right? I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right. I think it's evil. If I were to identify this is one of the most malicious and evil things that you European Americans have ever done because of the longevity of it. It didn't just happen, one solid hit and then you die. It's in every single day. Somebody coming into your home and sticking this into your veins. sticking this into your vein. You see this? A pin sticking this into your veins, in your feet or in your arms, or hitting you in the back of your head with a metal or a hammer or whatever it is that they used. You know what I'm saying? A rod of some sort. Somebody deliberately judging you. You know, I don't think that's right. I think that's evil. You know, this Gabrielle Franklin, representing the Queen of England, is a malicious old black woman, and she probably should have been put to sleep, but she's not going to be put to sleep. I'll probably die before she does. I'll probably be put to sleep and murdered before they take away this 90-something-year-old woman. You know, she works for the Klan and she works for the gay community, and, you know, it's who she worked for. And my mother was whether or not my mother knew she represented Bob Jones, and I don't even know. Now I'm looking back, I'm going, how do I know this woman was even my mother? Because of all that they did to, you know, all that they did back in the 70s that I never understood. I never understood. How do I end this video? It's been an hour and a half. I've given you my thoughts. My feet and my head are pounding. My body is aching. And I'm tired of regurgitating this story. I'm tired of talking to a bunch of wicked homosexuals and a bunch of wicked Klansmen. I'm tired of dealing with people like who calls themselves Jonathan when that wasn't his real name. Right? Jonathan is familiar to me because of Jonathan Zabo from Grace Community Church. You know, I mean, I think it's disrespectful what you Europeans are doing to others, you know, just to get them to, so you got the land, big deal. You still got to deal with your obituaries, right? You got the land, big deal. You still got to be buried, and all your worldly goods have to be buried with you. Or are they going to be passed with somebody else? Or are they going to be... Right? I don't know what to tell you. And the only thing I could say to you is, you know, if you're gonna waste your time opposing me, then what's going to happen is that God is going to judge you. And the judgment of the Lord he's gonna hold you accountable for every evil deed that you do. I have to give you a warning, you know. Every evil deed that you do is going to be held accountable. So whether it's words that you speak or things that you do, I don't know. But whatever it is that you choose to do from this day forward, know that it be upon your own head on how you spend your time. You're making me an enemy in the West Coast, as it was planned by MacArthur, right? MacArthur pretends to be innocent. MacArthur's the mastermind behind the whole thing. He's not innocent. He tries to pretend as if he doesn't know what's going on. No, he's the guy that ordered, he's the guy that had put Tom Sullivan in my life in the first place in New York. Now here I am across the nation away from this man. He brings Tom Sullivan back. Why? Because he is Tom Sullivan. It's just a different name and a different person, but when you look at his old pictures in black and white, the face is the face of MacArthur. You know, a younger version of him. You know, you Americans should have judged him in '74 when he caused that man to commit suicide. You should have judged him. You should have judged John to death, along with the men. Him and his staff were a Klan. You should have judged them as a Klan unto death for causing the death of this boy and the seminary student and his father and whoever else was killed in that time. You should have judged him. You should have given it to him like you would have given it to any criminal. But you people have the tendency to protect the wicked. And therefore now you've got him, you know, acting the part of being important. And you've got this Haitian woman subjecting herself to him with her son. And look at all the plotting and all the planning, right, today. Oh, don't they have anything better to do with their time than to sit in the background and listen to me talking videos or watching me? You know, I mean, I can't even sleep at night in my bed. I mean, these people spend all night plotting against me to see my response. Women, I'm like, do you people not have a life? These people don't have a life. They're outside responding. I was waiting for MacArthur to come out on the intercom. They talk extremely low. That's a European woman. She said no. You were warned. That's the Klan, or the gay community. You are not leadership. That's Melinda MacArthur. When you listen, you can hear them. You can hear them inside and out. When you listen, you can hear them hissing, very low, almost to the first. You know, it's like you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in elevation of volume. Well, you put it on 1, and you can hear it. Look, church, I'm talking to you again for this long, simply to just remind you, to warn you, that these people are coming among you. Now they're not waiting for me to come and visit. Now they're coming to wherever I'm at. And they're coming not because they believe, but because they have a gay Klan agenda. Don't fall into the trap of the gay Klan in the West Coast. You will do malicious things and evil things. You know, if these people want to live their lives that way, let God be their judge. But you don't get involved. Be careful of the Tom Sullivans. Be careful of John MacArthur and this Gabriel Franklin. They all are devils on the inside. They're a bunch of devils on the inside. This Gabriel Franklin is unclean. She's a sex offender. John MacArthur is an offender himself. I believe that he's a murderer. I believe that he has killed others. And he will continue to kill until he gets everybody killed that he wants. I believe that he's unclean. I believe that this Guy Franklin is a violent aggressor. This Melinda is probably a pornographer, or she's along the line of promiscuity somewhere. Sullivan is a devil. He's a snake. It's in his name. The S there is a serpent. Okay, so Sullivan is a serpent. As far as me living here is concerned, I don't have a clue when they're going to ask me to leave, or if I could remain here, or what's going to happen. I've been hit so many times, and every time I put it on an incident report, it becomes bothersome to the staff downstairs. So, you know, I'm not getting protected, I'm being hurt. You know, for some of you, I apologize for taking so much time. You probably shouldn't have watched my video. But for the others of you, stay up to date so that you know exactly what's going on. Because if it catches up to you off guard, I did everything that I could to keep you up to date with what was going on. Do not trust Sullivan. Do not trust Franklin. Do not trust MacArthur. Do not trust any of those people out of Grace Community Church. If they graduate from the Master's Seminary or the Master's College, do not trust those people. They're a bunch of serpents. Okay, MacArthur and his group are serpents. The Klan, the gay community, those people are going to bite and they're going to hit. And if you're a Kevin Duclairon, or you even look like a Kevin Duclairon, be on your guard. Be on your guard, because they want blood. And this is how MacArthur is doing it, him and his Klan. So if it began with a Bob in the East, and they went all the way to the Caribbean to find my family, to bring me up here, how much more you, who is European, and this is your community, how much will you and your son suffer if you have anything, if you have a woman that looks like a Mary Ann, which is my mother, or and which would be a Jones. This is how they're dealing with it. So I'm telling you, and I'm taking this time so that you understand, so that you don't fall into the same trap that I followed in with this MacArthur through the community.